It's parts day. All right, so I got the shifter here. This is the Mopar part number for that. And that's just for the stick. It didn't come with the Hurst shifter. I just like these because they're super comfortable and they come with a whole bunch of inserts for any thread pitch. I believe these are M12 by 1.25 thread pitch. It didn't come with these nuts on here, but you do need 2 of them. The screws are actually pressed in. So these came, I had to order them, but they came in a bag with no part number on it. So I'd have to look at the email and try to remember what that part number was. More on the inside, here's the leather boot that clicks into the console. I didn't actually buy the console yet, so I'm not going to be using that, but here are your part numbers. Boot, gear, shift, lever. Yeah. Alright, so then there are a bunch of other boots here. This is probably the most expensive part right here. I think on Mopar Parts I paid, what was it, 630 bucks for it, I believe, which I don't understand, but I mean there's a lot of shenanigans going on in there. Alright, so that part number is it on the box? Yes, right here. So there's the part number for the actual shifter. The transmission that I bought did not come with a shifter or anything. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Alright, so these right here are the 4 bolts. They have the inverted M12 Torx. It's like an external Torx. It's not a regular 12-point or 6-point bolt. So you do need 4 of those. I actually ordered a quantity 4 because I believe they sell them individually. So that'll bolt that onto the transmission. This will bolt onto here, and you can see it has this little cutout right here, so that actually locates this flange on there. And then I thought this was the only boot that goes on there on the underside, but it said you get 4 boots, and so that's 1 boot. And then there's this one, which I didn't even see this in my 2017 that came from the factory with a G56. So I don't understand why this is a thing, but I'm sure it works really good, and I'm going to use it anyway because they told me to. So here's the part number for that. So that would be, if you're going from the transmission up, this would be the 2nd boot. And so there's part number. And then the 3rd one, and this is the one I was waiting on the most because it actually has the bolt pattern. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so this is the actual pattern I'm going to need to set over the tunnel and actually cut the hole. So then in the first video I was telling you guys it has little tabs that hang down to locate it. So it's got these ones right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down there and try to line it up with the dimpled holes that are already there and just drop a Sharpie down and try to locate those holes or which ones we actually use. And then I will, there's the part number for that. And then so this will actually locate as factory as possible. So this is for what would be the 3rd boot. So you have boot 1, which comes with the shifter, boot 2, boot 3, and then 4 would be the leather one, which I'm not going to use yet. So for this, I actually ordered these bolts as well, and these are the OEM self-tappers. They're going to go into those divots, so I won't actually need to pre-drill anything. What I could do is actually just set this over, drop a self-tapper down into one of those little divots, and then do one on the opposite side, and then everything else will locate, and then I can just measure in from each bolt hole, like how far in to cut for that, so I can get that pretty close. Anyway, so here is the part number for the hex bolts. Alright, so we got basically from the shifter up all the hardware we're going to need and the boots we're going to need. The other things that I had received, and this is what took so long, is the isolator. So this section down here is the same on the G56 and the 68 RFE cross member. It just slides, I think, like 1.25 inches, 2 inches, one direction or the other. But then these isolators are a little bit different. And of course this section up here is different to bolt into the transmission. So I also got the hardware for that. these bolts right here actually thread into the transmission case in these two holes, and they actually sell them in pairs. So I ordered two because everything else I was ordering was individual. So this is, where's the part number there? Location, not seeing a part number. Part number should be that number right there. But, alright, so I got those bolts that go into the transmission, and then I got these nuts right here. They have a factory flange on them, and this is what goes onto the studs. There's a lot of stuff I may not have needed these. I could probably just have used them, existing ones, but I was like, you know what, it's like $1.68 a piece. So the part number for these is right there. Flatten it out. So here's all the information. And again, just pause this if you guys want to jot it down. So that covers mounting the transmission of the cross member and getting the whole shifter set up working. So then the only other thing that I bought was the new plate. I've heard a bunch of different things about these being different because, as you can see, this is really rounded and it doesn't have, so this would be the transmission side, and it doesn't have any of the provisions for the extra brackets, and I'll go down there in a second to show you. The automatic transmission one has like these huge cast brackets that support here, and then one on top, and it's just nightmare fuel. I did not get a new rear main seal because I forgot to order it, and now I'm in a rush because I need to get mulch and a bunch of other stuff, so the truck needs to be up. On the back side here of this plate, you have this little recess, and this is basically for the rear of the cam. The camshaft rides against this, so I went and got a new O-ring that goes in there. And the part number on that is, get back here. All right, so there's all the information for the transmission adapter seal, it's called. And on top of that, I went and got, these are actually super expensive. I don't know why I got new ones of these, but these are the 8 bolts that go from the block to the transmission, to this adapter plate. Part number on those, this should be right there, 2263486. But yeah, so I got new bolts to mount that. I got the new seal, and then I got the new plate, and I think I still have the box for the part number on the plate, and that is pretty much everything I got right here. So the part number for the adapter plate itself is right there, 6800 2974 AC. So there are differences. There's an AC, and I think the other one is like a BB or an AB, and so that's the difference between the manual and the automatic case. All right, so then the fun parts. Fun. So this here, boom. This is the high gear G56 with the awesome case. They cast their own case and they inspect everything, so it's essentially a brand new, or I guess the internals are reman, but the outside is a brand new case that they actually custom cast. And you can see the number one difference right here is that they really built up all of this right here, so you can immediately tell by the shape of the breather for the bell housing. And then all of these gussets right here, these are really built up on both sides. So they really build it up, and then basically there's like a bulkhead inside of here where the counter shaft has its front bearing, and they have a video on YouTube also, High Gear 1 I believe it's called, but they really bolstered up that bearing support so that the chances of the two shafts separating if the case flexes, and then destroying your transmission are basically gone. So this is a super heavy duty case. They say it's like 30% heavier or 30% stronger. And you can really see in here just the thickness of the bell housing is really increased. I believe there's another company, is it PDP, I believe, and they take these cases. From what I've seen, it looks like the same Awesome case. It's actually called the Awesome case, but they will take it and then they go and harden up the gears, and they call it the nearly indestructible transmission. But this will be more than enough. I probably won't go north of 700 horsepower at this truck. So this will be plenty of transmission for me. They also redesigned the bottom so it doesn't have that peak at this seam, and that way it actually sits flat and it's not a pain in the ass to have it sitting there. What else? So it did come with a reverse switch. So that's the 2-wire reverse switch. That's the only wire that's actually going to go to this transmission. And then what else? So the clutch that I got is the South Bend 3250. It's the dual friction, so it has the organic ceramic and then organic ceramic. So from what I understand on these clutches, the reason they're so good is because the center floater plate doesn't have nearly the mass that the flywheel and the pressure plate have. And so when you go with a full organic clutch, those organic facings that contact the floater plate, they'll actually get really hot, and that can warp the floater plate and then reduce the holding capacity of your clutch. So maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't know. I haven't really done all of the research on it, but it makes sense that if you have organic facing the pressure plate and the flywheel, they can spread that heat out a lot faster. So you get that easy engagement of an organic, and then on the center floater plate you have ceramic on both sides of that, so that it deals with the heat better and won't warp it. So I'm gonna give this one a shot. I've always been a Valair guy myself. I had a Valair's full ceramic dual disc in my last truck, and I loved it, but it was an on-off switch. There was no metering it to take off easily. It was basically like, you can't even start uphill in second gear. So that was not an ideal clutch. This one should be a lot quieter, and it should last relatively forever. So that did come with a new throwout bearing, and it came with the fork, but it did not come with this little spring. So I had to go onto Amazon. I think it was like $9 for this little clutch fork, release fork spring. Pretty easy. And then with every dual disc, they always say make sure you take out the little washer that goes behind this for clearance purposes. The one thing I did notice about this Awesome case is that this bore that they put here was not drilled and tapped as deep as the factory cases are, the Mercedes cases. And so when I took that washer out, I actually couldn't bottom this out. So I had to I took a cutoff wheel and nipped a little bit off the back side of that stud so that it could sit all the way in there. That's the only downside that I've seen to this, but other than that, it should run fantastically. So the 3250 clutch also came with the hydraulics, and here's the hydraulics here. It should be a pretty easy swap out. This is the clutch switch that I'm going to adapt in, and try to, instead of just grounding out the neutral safety so it starts forever, I'm going to try to use this, because if I can get this to wire up like factory, then pushing in the clutch should tell the ECM or the BCM, whatever it is, that it's in neutral, so I shouldn't have any four-wheel drive low issues. What else? So yeah, that's pretty much it for the parts. Once the transmission is out, I'm also going to do this fleece coolant bypass, which now has a bunch of crap on it. So I'm going to have to clean that up, and then I'm going to install that. And yeah, the rest is just, I know these videos have been going a little bit long, and nothing really cool has happened yet because I've just been doing the teardown. And I know everybody's seen 1,000 transmissions come out of these trucks, but I figured if I'm going to document the entire process, it might as well be the boring stuff too. So since the video that I put up yesterday, or whenever this one posts, the last video I put up, part 2, the only thing I've done is take out the torque converter bolts. I took out some of the bell housing bolts, and then I disconnected the cooler lines and drained the transmission and the torque converter, or the transfer case. So that's all I've done so far. My buddy's coming over to help me drop this whole pig out of here. So I'm actually just kind of rushing to get all the setup stuff done because he can't be here for very long. So I've tied off my cooler lines off to the side. Those are going to end up getting sold with the transmission. And then with the RevMax thermostat delete. So I just got them out of the way for right now. Right now I'm going to take the rear drive shaft out and the rest of the bell housing bolts, and then just wait for him to show up at the transmission jack so we can drop that out. So yep, that's the parts video. I'm gonna try to separate out. I think the next video will be doing all the conversion stuff down here, putting in the new adapter plate and the coolant bypass, and then the following video will either be stabbing in the new transmission and getting that all bolted up, or cutting the hole in the floor, because I'd like to cut the hole before I put the new trans in, obviously. But yeah, so I'm going to take this a little bit at a time. I'd rather have a super short video than a super long one, but I'm hoping that all the videos should be up, and this truck should be back on the road hopefully by next weekend or so. But that's the update. I'll bring you guys back when I got something else to report. Hey, so I just realized I forgot to do a price breakdown. Don't look at it. It's brutal. So just real quick, to tag on to the parts video there. The parts from my Mopar, that was all one order. I didn't show the panel that goes in the center console. I didn't get the 2-part with the cup holder that goes around the shifter, but I got the vertical piece that I was talking about with the cutout that goes just below the HVAC controls. That was included in this price, but it hasn't shown up yet. It's supposed to be here today. But so that was $14.33 for everything that I ordered from them. The clutch, the South Bend 3250 from PDP, was $15.68. The transmission was $6,100, but I don't know if that is going to be a stable price, so I wouldn't necessarily expect that price in the future. The transmission alone was $4,500, but because I'm doing a swap, I didn't have a core, so I had to add the core charge into that. And then from where they are to where I am, it was going to be $100 shipping one way. It would have been $200 if I had to send a core back. So that is $4,500 for the trans, $1,500 core charge, and then $100 for shipping or freight shipping. And they seemed pretty reluctant, as I would expect them to be, about just sending out a trans and not getting a core back, because cores are getting ridiculously hard to find. So big thanks to those guys for hooking me up and allowing me to grab a trans. Just give them nothing back except for a small fortune. And then dirty diesel tuning, I had to, when I bought the truck, it already had the what is that tuner? The Easy Link in there, but there were no ECM files. There was nothing in there, so I did have to get, I got the lifetime tuning package, or the support package, which was like, it was in Canadian dollars. It was like 1,100 and something Canadian, which ended up being $975 in US dollars. So as of right now, and this doesn't include I had to get that little $9 spring for the clutch throwout. I had to get the shift knob on Amazon, which was about $75, and then I still haven't got the shafts done. So cutting and modifying the 2 shafts is going to add on to that, and then I haven't got the 2 panels that go around the shifter for the cup holder, nor have I gotten a shorter the center jump seat, which I'd like to get that center seat, just because that airbag computer is hanging out for all creation to see. So this is just right now, this is all the hard parts that you need essentially to get the truck on the road and not necessarily make it look pretty. I've heard of some people, like everyone on the forums is like, oh, I got this swap done for $37, or I've got it done for, you know, 500 bucks, or, you know, if they have to buy everything from a junkyard, it's been, you know, probably $3,500 to $6,000 I've seen. I spent a good amount of time looking at all the junkyards, and there are just no G56 trucks in the wreckers at all, not even for the harness or anything like that. That was one thing I initially wanted to do before I really budgeted it out, is I wanted to get the manual transmission harness so I could just click it into the firewall, feed the wires down, and be done with it. But that's like $600, and it obviously did not fit into the budget, so I'm just going the route of stripping down my factory harness, and then I can't imagine ever going back to an automatic, so it should be fine. But so yeah, that's where I'm at right now with the prices. I just wanted to add that into the parts video, and then I can do a final breakdown later on once I either buy everything or the project is complete. So, all right, take her easy. All right, so as I sit here editing this video, I have made an astonishing discovery. When I was going through the parts video, I thought that I had another box coming, which I do, on Wednesday, which has the blanking plate for the dash on there. And I thought that my entire clutch assembly with the pedal and the cross pins and the bushings and all that stuff was going to be in that second box because it was a split order. When in fact, it didn't even make it onto my first order that I've been waiting for 3 weeks. So as I sit, all the parts that I showed you today is all that I actually have, but it is not all the parts you will need, because I can put the transmission in, I can mount it, I can hook up the clutch assembly, everything like that, the hydraulics at least, but I don't have any sort of clutch pedal or anything like that. I had this weird feeling when I was unboxing everything that it seemed like a little bit light package, but I had no idea that I completely spaced on adding the entire clutch pedal assembly in there. So that's on me. It seems like that's going to be slowing me down a bunch. I remember there was one comment on my first video that said the clutch pedal was incredibly hard to get, and it looks like I didn't make it through that. So I'm going to either have to wait to get one from my Mopar Parts till like June 10th, I think they said was the earliest, or I'm going to have to go scrounging around junkyards even more. So we'll see how that turns out. I just wanted to add that in there because I can't believe that I actually forgot an entire assembly. But yeah, more to come.